Imagine that you're walking down the street. You're having a pleasant enough day. Life is going on as usual. And you see a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat. How do you feel? Honestly, you probably don't feel much at all. Okay, it's a rabbit coming out of a hat. It's a magician. No big deal. Why is that? And what does it have to do with addiction? Let me explain. Because I'd like to tell you how addiction is actually an illusion, just like the rabbit coming out of the hat. Let's try a new context. You're at a magic show. You've been excited to come to the show for months. You bought the tickets. You've been looking forward to it. You know that this magician is exceptional. And partway through the show, the magician makes a rabbit disappear. And you can't for the life of you figure out how they did it. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking to yourself, where did that rabbit go? Oh my goodness, how did they pull off that trick? I can't believe it happened right before my own eyes. And maybe the magician moves on to another trick. And so that questioning, that mystery, that uncertainty, that tension of wondering about that rabbit might go into the background, but it's still there. It hasn't gone away. And then just at the moment you least expected it, after this trick is done or the next trick is done, the magician pulls the rabbit back out of the hat. Out of nowhere, seemingly. Oh! And you feel elated. You feel excited. You feel such a relief of, finally, I've found the rabbit again. But there's still a seed, a questioning of how did the magician pull the trick off in the first place? That hasn't been answered. And so maybe you go to another magic show down the line, or maybe if you're like me, you look it up on YouTube and try to find out what's the secret. But notice that there's a very different feeling that occurs when you were there for the setup of the trick. When the rabbit disappeared, that's when the yearning or the longing to see it reappear was created. But if you're just walking down the street and you didn't see the setup of the trick, then it's really not a big deal. It doesn't mean anything to see the magician pull the rabbit out of the hat. So what does this have to do with addiction? Let me explain. The first time that anybody who has smoked cigarettes smokes a cigarette is kind of like walking down the street and seeing the rabbit get pulled out of the hat. I don't know if you remember the first cigarette you ever had, but for most people, it's a very unpleasant experience, actually. It doesn't feel good. There's no relief. There's no soothing effect. There's no elation. There's no excitement. For most people, it actually feels quite miserable, which makes sense because you are, in fact, inhaling toxic smoke. So then why do we keep doing it? Well, here's the trick that cigarettes and alcohol and other addictive substances play on us. As the substance is leaving our bodies, they plant a seed, and that seed is like the setup of the next trick. As the nicotine leaves our system, it's like the rabbit disappearing, and we don't know where it went, and we don't know how the magician made it go away, and we don't know when it's going to come back, and we don't know how the trick was so convincing, and we start to long to see the rabbit again, simply because we can't figure out why it went away. So, as the nicotine leaves your system, as the alcohol leaves your system, as the caffeine leaves your system, as the heroin or the cocaine leaves your system, that's the setup to the next trick. And so in the back of your mind, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're thinking, when is the rabbit coming back out of the hat? When is the next trick? When is the next relief? When will I get my next fix? Are we talking about rabbits or are we talking about cigarettes? I'm not sure there's any difference. So then you smoke that next cigarette, or you have that next beer, or you get that next fix. And oh, what a feeling of elation that you have, because finally you see the rabbit come out of the hat again. All is right with the world. You no longer have to worry about the mystery of when is it coming back, how is it coming back, where is it coming back from. But are you starting to see the problem? When the rabbit leaves, when the nicotine leaves, when the alcohol leaves, again is planted the seed of discomfort, the desire to see the trick happen again, The rabbit disappears. The magician makes it go away, and you can't figure out why or how. And so you're stuck on a treadmill. You're stuck on a hamster wheel. Because every time the rabbit comes out of the hat, every time the magician makes the rabbit come back, oh, that feeling of relief is there. That feeling of excitement, of elation, of peace comes back. But in that experience is planted the seeds for the discomfort of wondering, oh no, the rabbit went away again. The magician did the trick again. And now I need to know, when is it coming back? I need to have it come back. So you're stuck. You're caught in a trap. And the worst part of all of it, the biggest illusion of all, is that these substances, just like the rabbit coming out of the hat on the street, they never provided any pleasure in the first place. Nicotine doesn't make you feel good. Alcohol doesn't make you feel good. Caffeine doesn't make you feel energized. It's all a trick. It's all an illusion. It'd be one thing if they gave you real benefit, but they don't even do that. So this is the illusion of addiction. We get hooked on a substance which is harmful to us and provides no true pleasure, simply because it is uncomfortable to sit in the not knowing of when the rabbit is going to come back, in the not knowing of how the magician pulled off the trick in the first place. So how do we get out of the trap? How do we get off the treadmill? Well, the first step is seeing the illusion for what it is. If you do go to YouTube and you look up how does the magician hide the rabbit and then pull it back out of the hat, and you learn the inner workings, the secret society of magicians' inner sanctum, so to speak, the trick loses its allure. There's no more flash. There's no more luster. There's no more excitement. You probably won't go see that magician again because, well, you know how the trick is pulled off. So why bother? You don't get that feeling of excitement in the mystery and that feeling of relief when the trick is complete. It's kind of boring, actually. And you might even find it kind of grating. Like, geez, this trick again? I know how this happens. This isn't interesting. It'd be like watching a movie where they play the ending at the beginning and you see that everything is fine and everything works out like this and that and the other. Who would keep watching that movie if they knew all of the ending plot lines? Probably nobody. Because it's not interesting. It doesn't keep us hooked. It doesn't toy with our emotions in a fun and exciting way. So by the same token, if you know how the magician pulls off the trick, you're not going to watch that trick again. And by the same token, if you know how the alcohol and tobacco and other drugs pull off their tricks, you're not going to be fooled by that again. So once you see the illusion for what it is, you can't be fooled by it again, and it loses its hold over you. It loses the spell that it cast over you. And then the next time you have a cigarette, or the next time you have a drink of alcohol, or even just smell alcohol, you wake up to the fact that, oh my gosh, this is a foul substance that is actually very unpleasant. It was a trick all along. The only seeming pleasure that I got was the relief from wondering, when is the rabbit coming back out of the hat? And then you step off the treadmill. And the funny thing about a treadmill is, once you get off of it, you don't have to keep running. You're not stuck under its trance anymore. The funny thing about a hamster wheel is that it only goes forward by your own motion. If you stop running, the hamster wheel stops forcing you to run. The faster you run on a hamster wheel, however, the faster you have to continue running to avoid face planting. So you just stop running, and then you don't need to run anymore, and you step off. So here's to your successful liberation from addictions of all kinds.